like the eternal city that is Rome. Rising upwards like a heavenly choir.
Hello, everyone. This is the second show today, so if you're joining us from the other live stream, welcome back. And also, welcome to this show, Cristofer Pereyra. So I don't think I pronounced his last name correctly, but I'll let him do so now. How do you say that?
Cristofer Pereyra, Michael. It's a
Pereyra,
tough one,
yes.
I know.
So I apologize for my bad pronunciations there, but so you are the current president of the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative. And so this is a nonprofit apostolate that really forms Catholic leaders. It sends them through classes for several months and really just develops their leadership. And so my first curiosity is, how did you get involved with this organization?
That's right. That's a good question. Like many of the
Yes.
plans that the Lord surprises us with, it was completely unsuspecting for me, but um, there is actually an origin story that I often share when I give talks around the country on leadership, on Catholic leadership. I tell them a little bit about how I got into this. And tomorrow, I actually, for the first time, I wrote it, and I am including it on our newsletter. So if you receive our newsletter, Michael, you'll get the detailed story of how I got into this business of leadership. But the
Yeah.
short answer is that 7 years ago, as an employee, a representative of the Diocese of Phoenix, I was working for Bishop Olmsted back then, now the Bishop Emeritus of Phoenix. I was sent to a secular civic leadership development program in the community. And that experience, that very interesting experience, opened up my eyes to the reality of civic leadership development in the United States. This is a concept that has been around since the 70s, is very well developed in the secular world. I'm telling you that there's such a thing as the National Association of Leadership Programs. And all of these are
Mhm.
secular programs that are forming leaders. Each of them takes on a different flavor or format. And then what do? They send off the graduates of the program to their communities and really push them into key leadership positions in their community. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Michael, I discovered 7 years ago as well that most of these programs, the majority, are forming leaders with values that run directly opposed to Catholic teaching. So
Mhm.
in this, we saw both a problem and an opportunity, because we thought, Bishop Olmsted and I, we could do this better. It's not a bad idea. It's just not being oriented right. We can make it Catholic. And we developed a curriculum and launched Tepeyac Leadership Initiative, initially as a diocesan program in Phoenix. And then it just took off, my friend. We with Bishop's blessing, we decided to turn it into its own 501c3 nonprofit organization, a national apostolate, so we could share it with the rest of the church in the United States. And when the pandemic hit, it actually caused us to grow overnight. We were already able to reach participants in every corner of the country and even outside the United States, because the whole world had gone virtual. And so that is
Yeah.
TLI. We have now graduated over three participants from the program, and graduated 6 different generations, 6 different cohorts. And all of our graduates, they're off with one very concrete mindset and very concrete mission. And it is this. This is really what's behind our work, Michael. Our graduates go on to the world to insert themselves into the secular fabric of society, into the secular institutions of society, so that we can influence them from within. That's what it is in a nutshell, so that we can see it at all of the
Yeah.
tables where decisions are being made.
Yeah, and so it's a highly commendable apostolate. Just from my brief experience, really researching things, it seems like you guys are doing a lot of great work. And so, my first question, after really introducing this initiative, is to ask what differentiates a secular leader versus a Catholic leader. What values differentiate the two?
That's an awesome question, Michael. It turns out
Thank
we discovered this as we were developing our program, that there's no consensus on what leadership is. Really, everybody defines it their own way. In the corporate world, leadership is really management. That's what they mean when they say leadership. In the Catholic Church, traditionally, when we think of leadership, we think of the hierarchy of the church. We think of the Pope and the bishops. We tend not to think of ourselves as leaders, lay Catholics. And unfortunately, when we finally think of ourselves as leaders, the scope in which we think that we can exert a lay Catholic leadership is too small, is really limited to parish or diocesan life. So we believe that lay Catholic leadership should be lived out primarily out in the world, in civil society, is what we say. So after 7 years of working in leadership with Catholic professionals from all over the country and the world, Michael, just recently
you.
it came to me. God gave me a light, and I was finally, and it was so obvious. I don't know how I didn't see it before, but I finally think I can define leadership with one word, my friend. One word. You want to take a stab at it?
Well, my first guess would be service.
Oh my goodness.
Being
That's it. That's it.
that's the
That's it.
word.
It's it's simple. People will say things like um, charity, compassion, hard work, discipline. I mean, all of these things are good and they're important parts of leadership. But I am convinced that leadership equals service. And the way that I tell people, this is how I can prove it to you, that is precisely the way, the style in which the ultimate leader of all times led. He came to serve,
Yeah,
not to be served. He was a servant leader. And that is the ultimate example of leadership that we have.
yeah, for sure. So I think I heard that maybe from one of your LinkedIn posts or maybe from a book or something that Jesus was
Possibly.
the ultimate servant. So yeah, what other saints do you think exemplify leadership? Just from our own Catholic tradition, do any immediately come to mind, such as Mother Teresa or Padre Pio? Any favorite
Well,
saints of yours?
I think that all the saints are leaders, all of them, every single one. Because if we go back to the definition we've just described, a leader is a servant, right? When you think about the saints that founded religious institutions, right? What they did was certainly leadership. They started something and they actually had followers, but you don't need to be a founder to be a leader. I think of my own, back from my home country, Peru, St. Martin of Porres. He was a saint. He is a saint who was a very humble person who nobody in his own days would have necessarily identified him as a leader. However, he, throughout the centuries, has been able to inspire so many people through his life of holiness, through his love and compassion, right? Um,
Yeah,
one that I definitely am good friends with is Saint Jose Maria Escrivá, and he is the saint
yeah,
of ordinary life. Saint Jose Maria, he actually, that was his message. He dedicated his entire life to tell lay Catholics, particularly, that we're all called to holiness, and the way in which we become holy, become saints, is by pouring love into everything we do. And what happens when we do that? What happens when we pour all of ourselves into what we do by serving others, whatever, no matter what our profession or career, occupation, or whether we stay at home with our children, whatever it is we do daily, if we simply put love in it, what is the inevitable consequence of that? We inspire others. We provide inspiration for others, and we automatically are leading. The minute we're serving, we're leading. And it's interesting because a lot of people think that they can't be leaders because they are shy. They're not extroverts. right? Maybe they don't
Yeah.
see, they think that they lack public speaking skills. And somebody can be great in a stage, but it doesn't mean he or she is a leader. That's
Mhm.
leadership is a lot more profound than extroversion or public speaking.
Yeah, and so Saint Bernard actually comes to mind. I was reading his biography, and the writer there said that Saint Bernard actually wasn't the greatest speaker. He would stumble a lot around his words, but his words always had power because each word he spoke was coming from his heart. So that's just something that people don't think about, that you don't have to be the greatest talker to say powerful, inspiring words. And so, yeah, going
Absolutely.
a little uh, deeper into your own life, just a personal question here. So this will be a hard question. I always have to give one to each one of my guests. But how did starting the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative, getting involved, really training up other leaders, how did this make an impact on yourself, on your own
Sure.
leadership ability?
So I've learned a lot. I continue to learn. When we first, Bishop Olmsted and I founded TLI, I didn't really know what leadership was. I mean, I had all of these notions, but I think it really has expanded developed my understanding of what true leadership is. And like I said, I am convinced that it's service, but it has also helped me grow interiorly in my spiritual life. As you know, my friend, we are flawed and we're all broken, and we are sinners, right? So if we are not committed to our prayer life, to a sacramental life, if we have not made a lifelong commitment to work daily on our interior life, we're useless. We're useless. We can't be effective workers, servers for the church and for God. So what I have learned is that the minute things become falling out of place in any way, into going to disorder in my at the office, at home, in my life, whatever it is, whenever trouble comes afloat, I can immediately identify that the reason is that I have been neglecting my prayer life, that I haven't been picking up a spiritual book and feeding into my own spirituality with some time during the day for contemplative prayer. And so if we really want to serve Mother Church, before we think of getting busy by doing things, what we need to do is commit to a plan of spiritual life. For some people, that will be that will involve daily mass, daily rosary. The church puts all of these, the beauty of the sacraments, and all of these devotions at our disposal to help us grow, and it's the sacraments particularly to strengthen us and nourish us and sanctify us, right? So if we're not plugged in this way, connected to God through our prayer life, our sacramental life, then we're not going to be good, right? So that's what I have learned. That is the lesson that I
Yeah,
continue to learn.
for sure. So, yeah, that's a great answer right there. Well, just for other people, what is one piece of advice, maybe to a young teenager or whatnot that really hasn't stepped out into the world yet? What inspiration do you have for them? What encouraging words do you have for them to develop virtue, to put themselves out there as a leader, to really take that on as a personal apostolate, sort of like Jose Maria Escriva would talk about, how you're taking on leadership as your own. So, what would your advice be
Sure.
to a person in that situation?
Two things in concretely to grow interiorly, to grow in your spiritual life. What we need is to begin to take serious our faith. We do it with everything else. When you go to college, you plan out your career, you plan out a wedding, a party. When you start a business, you plan out the business, right? You do some research, right? And you invest so much thinking into what you want to do because you want it to succeed. So if we want to be saints, we need to think about how we're going to open ourselves up to God's grace, because it is his grace that sanctifies us, but not without us opening ourselves up through, as I mentioned it before, a plan of spiritual life, right? So having a spiritual
Mhm.
director is super important. If it's a priest, great, because you can knock off spiritual direction and confession in one visit. But priests are busy. Sometimes it'll be a deacon, or it could be a layperson who's well formed and committed to the faith, right? More mature in the faith. So we need a spiritual director. Every Catholic needs a spiritual director. The Pope needs a spirit. I'm sure has a spiritual director. Every Catholic needs
Yeah.
one. We need to be serious about our faith. If God is the most important thing in our life, then we need to be serious about a plan of spiritual life. But in addition to that, I would say that for young men particularly, today's society is trying to make us build an identity around the wrong things. And many young people today are building an identity on, uh, it could be the color of of their skin, their nationality, or their last name. People tell me that because of the color of my skin, that's it. That's my identity. You know, uh,
Yeah.
could be your preference for a political party. It could be your preference for sports, music, all kinds of things. And while all of these things are, or even your career, which is important, all of these things, while they are important aspects of who we are, they should not define us. At the core, all of the baptized, we share one identity, the same identity, even though we're unique individuals. God created us each one unique individuals. We share at the core, we are children of God. That is where we need to build our identity. Everything builds on top of that.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense because when you know who you are, from there, a natural understanding of the purpose of your life should flow. And that purpose, if you're a child of God, is holiness, is heaven. That is my advice to young men and ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice right there. And so to really kind of close things down here, just a really quick question. Where does the word Tepeyac come from?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. So Tepeyac is the name of the hill, the little mountain where Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to Saint Juan Diego. That
Oh,
is the name
yeah.
of the place. Our Lady must really like mountains, like Mount Carmel, because she appeared to San Juan Diego in a little hill in Mexico City called Tepeyac Hill. So we have taken that name for our program because uh, co- we have asked Our Lady of Guadalupe and San Juan Diego to intercede for the fruits of Tepeyac Leadership Initiative. And we tell the graduates of the program or the participants that just like San Juan Diego received a mission of leadership from Our Lady at Tepeyac Hill, we pray that they will find theirs and receive it during the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative.
Yeah, so that would be a great phrase to end on, but just maybe a quick encouragement for people to actually join the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative. What are some fruits that you've noticed in the graduates, in the participants, that you think really differentiate this program? So, what's some encouragement for people to join the
Absolutely.
Tepeyac Initiative?
What I have seen is that the program is able to give people different things. Each participant walks away with a different thing depending on where they are in their life and in their spiritual life as well. For example, with young professionals, I've noticed that the program gives them a lot of confidence. I have seen this, and the fruit is clear because when they graduate from the program, you see them pretty soon moving up in their career, advancing in their career, taking on leadership roles, right? And then for many others, maybe more seasoned professionals, I have seen them quickly turn around and see themselves as mentors and those who have the ability now to guide the new generations, right? Across the board, all of our graduates are serving on boards, BOARD. I spell it because I have an accent. Boards. Board service, Michael, is a big aspect of our training. As we tell our program participants, we are convinced that board service, I'm talking about service in a board board of trustees, advisory boards, boards of directors, cabinets, committees, all of these things. This is where leadership happens. These are the tables where decisions are made that influence the culture. So our graduates, most of them are already serving on boards. And the ones that are not, they're seeking out board service opportunities, because if there's one thing we hammer through the program is the importance of getting involved in board service.
Yeah, for sure. A service right there. That's preparing them
There you
for
go.
life, really. Service, modeling after Christ. So, yeah, this was a great episode here. A really short episode, but every minute was jam-packed with good inspiration, good information as well. So thank you for joining the show, Cristofer.
Thank you, my friend. It's an honor. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, and thank everyone who's watched this. May God bless you all.
Not of the modern world.
For
The modern
yes.
world. That's right.
Yeah, and
Bishop Barron. Hello, it's from the airport. Hello, we're doing good. Nice to meet you.
So who are you, sir?
I'm Archbishop Joseph Nauman of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas.
Yeah, do you want to bless this recorder? Is there a blessing for that?
There's a blessing for everything. So,
Yeah, say.
Lord, we ask you to bless this instrument and use it for good and for evangelization. Amen.